Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Becoming Awesome. I am your co-host, Ray Thomas, with my partner in crime, Jenna Lass. We are Amazon insiders introducing you to the humans of AWS. And as the intro is going, I'm looking at Isaiah Labras's Dancing Dinosaurs. Welcome, Isaiah, one of our top fans. So happy you like our new intro music. Jenna, how's it? How are you doing? And how's the snow up there? Because I know we're getting hit hard here in New York City.
I'd like a little bit more. The dogs are having a great time in the snow. I need a little bit more for me to have a nice time in the snow. Only because I'm taller than them.
Yeah, well, in New York City, I had to shovel earlier. My back is hurting, but now I'm like defrosted and ready to heat things up with our next guest. So why don't we bring out Dave Orwick to the show? Welcome, Dave. And Dave is actually migration and modernization partner leader for the Americas. We met through the Bar Raiser community, and you want to be part of the show. So welcome. Why don't you start off with just a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So Dave Orwick, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I have been with AWS for a little over 7 years now. Whole bunch of different roles, which we can talk about a little bit if we want to dive in. But yeah, I've been, it started off in the infrastructure team, spent time in public sector, been in the partner organization for about 1.5 years now, and leading our migration and modernization team since the first of the year.
Excellent.
You guys know each other already. Through the Bar Raiser community, so I think it's not fair. I would like to get to know you personally, Dave. So you look like an interesting guy here. You have a lot of hobbies. You have a laundry list of hobbies in no particular order. You say family, friends, dogs, coffee, travel. Well, that actually sounds like my gym logo. Family, friends, dog, coffee. That's funny. Travel, guitars, watches, powerlifting, golf, reading, tattoos. And it's not reading tattoos. They're separate. There's reading and tattoos, photography, and food. Photography, you and Ray definitely connect on that. So I hope to find something we can connect on. I can pick something and ask you to talk about it, but I'd rather you, even though you say no priority order, you've got to have a favorite. What's the favorite?
Yeah, well, I'll say I'm like a serial hobbyist. I tend to like go all in on something and like really dig into it and get all the gear and sort of get psyched up. And then I'd say the ones that are on that list have stuck around for a while. Like I've played golf for a long time. Powerlifting has been a mainstay now for a bit, like really big into lifting weights. I play guitar pretty poorly, but my New Year's resolution this year was to get out and play in public at least once this year. So my goal is to hopefully do that a little more often, but we'll see. Really big on family though. Like I spend a lot of time with family and friends, and really value that sort of togetherness.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like you've saved the best for last by talking about your family, but I just have to chuckle over the serial hobbyist comment. Like, is it that you just like to buy everything that's required for the hobby, and then once you've collected everything, then you're like, all right, I'm done with this hobby, I'm ready for the next thing?
There may be some things in my basement that would tell you that is the truth. I do enjoy acquiring the gear and sort of learning about all the stuff. And if you notice the hobbies that I've got in there, like weightlifting is probably the exception. The other ones involve a fair amount of like acquisition of stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know some others like you. So we've connected.
Yeah. I'm looking at the list and I see like tattoos, and my wife doesn't know it yet, but I'm gonna get another one after work tomorrow. But it's up for my daughter, little sparrows and whatnot. So hopefully she won't smack me on the backside of my head. Once she realizes, hey, it's them rather than something random. But yeah, and the photography, I think we've connected. You said you were starting to shoot your daughter's dancing, at recitals and whatnot. What is that like? How's that been for you?
Yeah, so my daughter's 13. She's been dancing since she was 3. Does ballet, tap, jazz, modern, sort of you name it. And so started trying to shoot her dance recitals and some of the like dress rehearsals and practices. And shooting is hard for dance because it's high action and low light, and those two things don't play nice together.
Yeah, yeah, I deal with that in the nightlife photography, and that's why I have it on rapid mode and just click, 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 and then take a look at the series of 10, and like that one looks decent, and then work from there. But yeah, I mean, a lot, very interesting. And I'm sure we're gonna tie certain things back here because again, guitars, guitars and photography, everything they require certain type of mindset and whatnot to be able to master it. Is there anything that you learned, either from work or from the hobby that's helping you with the other side, like thinking strategically or looking at things at a different lens?
Yeah, I would say like a lot of the hobbies I've had are like require skill building over time, where like you can't just like guitar, like you can get like pick up the basics pretty fast, but to get good, like it just never stops. There's always something more you can learn. I feel that like that at work a lot, where like I feel like I came into AWS with a sort of a very different background from what I was doing, but if you look at the roles I've had over my course here, like they're all fairly different, and there's a through line there, but like it's a lot of taking on a new challenge, learning a new skill, and sort of building on those past experiences to take on something new. And you know, there's one role in AWS that I looked for. Every other single job I've had has been saying yes to an opportunity. And so I feel like that the way I've approached my hobbies outside of work is pretty similar to that. Like it's a lot of like seeing something interesting and taking it on and then building that up over time.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. So you said skill building, and that's sticking with me as I'm trying to like connect that with your time here with AWS. And I can see on your LinkedIn profile you've had about 6 jobs, 6 roles in your time. So there must have been a lot of skill building. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your journey?
Yeah, it's a lot of learn and be curious. So lot of leaning in on that particular leadership principle. Yeah, I was a lawyer before AWS. I was a practicing real estate attorney. I was a partner at a law firm for 14 years. Really could have told you sort of what my future career looked like down to some pretty exact estimates, and really took a flyer coming to AWS. I was like, this is an interesting opportunity to expand in a new way. Worst case scenario, I don't like it, and I go back to being a lawyer. But best case, this opens up opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise, and that's absolutely how it's panned out. And so, every role I've taken has required me to lean into some discomfort in one area or another. Whether that's, the international aspect of coming into AWS and doing site selection for our data centers, whether that's, and trying to learn new cultures and languages in the process. Taking on people management as I moved into my first or my second job at AWS. And then, I'd worked with public sector as a lawyer, but not really in the same capacity. And so, really had to learn a lot of new skills in leading and building teams within our public sector organization. So, I love the learning aspect. Like I love the challenge of picking up something new. And, it has never stopped the whole time I've been here.
So I'm glad you shared that, being an IC and then moving into management. Have your perspectives changed and what type of skills are actually needed to now lead a team versus what skills you might have personally had yourself? And how would you actually describe AWS to anyone externally saying like, well, what is it really like to work there? How would you describe it?
You may have to remind me to go back to the second part of that question because the first part is it could be a lengthy answer. Yeah, so as a lawyer, I certainly managed complex teams and complex projects. Like that was sort of par for the course, and did a lot to mentor junior attorneys or folks within the practice. Managing people at AWS is different, very different than that. Certainly, it's an adjacent skill, but sort of the level of responsibility is much higher. The expectations are much higher. You're really accountable for the growth of your team, and sort of the develop the best part of hire and develop the best is it's a challenge. Like it's something like one of my greatest enjoyments as a manager is helping somebody own their career at Amazon or own their career outside of Amazon. Like sometimes, some career paths take you all sorts of different directions. And so I don't try to substitute what I want out of my career for what folks on my team want. And so like really understanding like what motivates them, what drives them, what are they trying to do differently or take on, what are the challenges they want to take on. And then really helping develop that. And so like one of the things I'm most proud of is I keep in touch with a lot of people that used to be on teams that I used to manage. And some of those are monthly one-on-ones or quarterly follow-ups or occasional check-ins on LinkedIn, like all sorts of different approaches.
You mentioned hire and develop the best. We talk a lot about that. We don't really talk that much, though, about our newer leadership principle success and scale brings broad responsibility. And you've had success, you've had scale. How are you continuing to have success and scale? And what does that leadership principle really mean to you?
So I think it's the broad responsibility part is the part I need to lean into more. I think how it materialized in my first job was, in the data center space, like the folks I worked with, our partners and developers, like we were a huge market making big deal for them. And, and so that responsibility was really sort of ingrained in me from an early time here of like, having an ethical practice, having the sort of responsibility to treat our vendors fairly, like that was really ingrained early on. And then, that has continued today. Like I'm in our partner business, and like how we engage with our partners and show fairness across partner communities and, take the scale that we bring to the community and help them help our joint customers. Like it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to really like do that in practice and then do that with a team of people, because we hold ourselves to an extremely high standard here, and we want our partners and to be able to help our customers to that same high standard.
Yeah, I really appreciate actually that you brought it even further than just employees by talking about the scale, the responsibility in the industry. So that actually ties me to just like your team and your team's remit, right? So I think I understand that your team helps AWS partners address like challenges in terms of like modernization and migration. Can you help the viewers understand like what are some of the common challenges?
Yeah. So first, like a quick for those that don't following along that may not know. So when we talk about partners at AWS, these are typically consulting partners. So folks that are helping customers run projects or providing solutions for customers. It may also be a technology partner. So someone that's has a software product that they're selling into our customers as well. And so we work with both of those kinds of partners. The challenges that the folks face. So like my engagement or my team's engagement is often with someone that leads a modernization practice at a partner, or in the ISV community, in the technology partner community, that might be someone that is building something that makes it easier for customers to modernize or easier for customers to migrate to AWS. And so, challenges there can be, there's a lot. It could be product market fit. It could be, hey, I think I've got this good idea. I've got some good reaction, but how does that work with AWS customers? It could be navigating our internal systems. So like, hey, I think I've got this great thing. How do I find the right people in AWS to help me? It could be external facing of like, hey, we have something new coming out that our customers don't know about yet, and we want partners to help us scale that when it comes to comes out into the marketplace, so that customers are aware of it and know where to turn for help. And so like, and there's 50 other things I could that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but like, and so our teams help those partners sort of do go to market, do co-selling with AWS, build practices, and really like grow and succeed for our joint customers.
So what I'm hearing is, with the relationship on both sides, you're both trying to help each other solve for problems that's going to impact the customers one way or another. And a lot of times one has the expertise where the other one doesn't, and given that, what type of people do you have on your team? Like what type of skills do they need to have aside from being a problem solver? Like what does it really take to be that type of person that can take a new challenge that they've never seen before and be successful and still delivering? What does it take?
Yeah, so you'll hear it called technical business development, sort of the job family that folks operate in, and that's who's on the bulk of the folks on my team. What that really means is a lot of different things. Like people come from a variety of backgrounds. I think some common features I would see for success in our space are a lot of comfort with ambiguity. There's a lot of different things that we could go do, and so really being able to take this sort of possible universe and think, okay, all these things I could do, like what's going to drive the most impact? What do I need to? How do I triage that work into something I can really do? Somebody once told me that success at Amazon is there's 100 things you could do during the day. Success is knowing the 95 things you're not going to do and which 5 things I'm going to pick to actually go do, and then forgetting about the 95 or putting off the 95. And that's, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to triage your 100 things down to 5. I'd say the second thing would be, experience working either with or for our partner community. I think understanding, what are our consultants trying to drive? What are our technology partners trying to do? A little bit of understanding that business is really helpful. And then I think, it's going to sound a little trite, but like it's really leaning into the leadership principles, like our, success of thinking like an owner, driving results, working backwards from customer problems. Like it's all of that comes to bear on success in the partner space and success in developing business, because you truly own your own business. Like all the people on my team truly own their own business. They are all entrepreneurs. And that's what success looks like, is you have to think like an owner.
So is this a specialty, or do you consider yourself to be a generalist? I don't know if it's industry specific or technology specific.
Yeah, so it is a specialist team. And so we're an overlay to our generalist community within other partner-facing teams. So folks like partner development managers or partner sales managers. We're a specialist team that works specifically with migration and modernization practices and solutions. And so the folks tend to come from a background of application modernization, so containers or serverless. A lot of folks doing Windows modernization and migration, and so a background in Microsoft workloads. And then the technical teams that I'm partnered with. A lot of those technologists come from pretty deep backgrounds in the containers world, the serverless world, or modernization world.
Yeah. So it's funny because you were talking about, like earlier, you have all these hobbies, and you need to pick one to focus on. To Ray's point earlier, and he was saying, like, what is it about work, your personal life, that you apply to your business life? And now here you're talking about, like, there's so many opportunities and you have to sort of narrow it down to one. So I will draw that connection point from the conversation and take that away. But for people that maybe struggle with that uncertainty and ambiguity, is there a place for them in this kind of space? I mean, how can somebody be sort of ramped up for success?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say there's like a right answer, or there's a short answer and a nuanced answer. The short answer is, like, if you're not comfortable with ambiguity, Amazon is a really tough place. I can't think of a job within Amazon that doesn't involve a fairly high degree of ambiguity. And so understanding what to do in that, if that's not your environment, I think Amazon's going to be a hard place in any role. I think the more specific answer is there are tools that we can and should use to manage ambiguity. I think anybody can learn that. Getting comfortable with it is something different. But like for me, it's the working backwards process. Like that is my default choice when I'm faced with a highly ambiguous situation. I come back to there's 5 customer questions. Who's the customer? What's their problem or opportunity? What's the biggest challenge? So like I go through that sort of triage list of questions to focus me on, okay, what am I trying to drive? What's the customer outcome I'm focused on? How do I know? How do I prioritize within that? Then that gives me a guidepost of, okay, I can put the other things to the side. These are the 2 or 3 things that are really going to matter, really going to drive an impact.
Yeah, it's a very grounding experience.
Yeah. It's and I look at that. I look at that from the customer side, working backwards, but also from the leadership side as well, trying to develop your team. I look at myself and neurodiverse ADHD. I have a lot of passions like you, right? Like I have a lot of different hobbies. And then the minute I find something goes super deep, like what Jenna says, you buy everything you can, like especially like fishing. And then you have everything, but then you have way too much. If you really look at it, you could have done well with just that. How would you center yourself and how do you center others on your team to really focus on the right things?
Yeah, so it's a lot of ruthless prioritization. And so I work with a lot currently as an overlay team, and my teams in the past have always sort of fit in sort of odd parts of organizations where we have to like really justify our existence a lot. And so I found that, the way I sort of influence without authority is, we come up with a great problem to solve. So we work backwards from our customers and we come up with a really great problem to solve. We write a document, a strategy that pulls that together into a cohesive narrative. We share that with our stakeholders to say, hey, this is what we think the problem to solve is. This is what we're going to go drive. Are you with us? What's your feedback? And that sort of plants the flag in the sand that when, as always happens, competing priorities arise or someone comes up with the hot issue du jour, says, oh, we need you to go tackle this. You're like, well, okay, like, here's what we said we were going to do. These are our 3 priorities. Like, are we replacing one of those with a new priority? Are we going to deprioritize something else? Like, how does that fit in? And so it fosters a really great conversation with those stakeholders, or rather than us trying to like do everything, it helps us prioritize like which of those things are really going to matter. And that's a constant calibration. Stuff changes all the time. Our customers change, what they want changes, the environment around us changes, and so we can't just have a static view. It's like, okay, we get new information in. Okay, are we going to pivot? Or are we going to keep on the course we were on? My favorite interview question at Amazon that I ask is, what is it? If I interview anybody on the call, that just know this is probably coming. It's tell me about a time that you were more than 50% done reaching a goal, or 50% along the way to a goal, and you decided it might not be the right goal or might have unintended consequences. And I love that because it's about, hey, I thought this was the right thing, but I'm getting all this data in that tells me maybe it's not. Maybe there's something else I should do. And am I just laser focused on that goal that might not even be the right one, or can I pivot? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much information and so much challenge in trying to do that right. And so like that, doing that well as a team leader, like it helps folks understand how to focus. It helps folks understand how to prioritize. And so like, I want everybody on the team to feel empowered to make those kind of decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting because Jenna and I are going through that with our own doc around the show itself, where when we ask for just high level feedback initially from our leadership team, the type of questions you could tell so many different perspectives of what's important to them. And then you start to realize, wow, I need to pivot the doc a little bit here and that way. And it's just really, really interesting. But we do have a question in chat because I want to get to it because we have a few minutes left from Isaiah. If someone is looking to transition to tech, what would you as a manager look for from a candidate? From candidates who are pivoting, what kind of grit do they need?
Good question.
So I've hired a lot of people that did not have like a direct tech background. And so I find you have to have some kind of transferable experience. And so looking at the kind of jobs that we hire for, like what do you bring to the table that's transferable? And then what are those things that you need to work on that, is reasonable that are reasonable under the circumstances. And so, if someone comes in saying, hey, like this is what I can do right out of the gate, and and these are the things I know I need to learn, and here's my plan for learning them, like, that's great. And so, I think it's showing that you're willing to learn, that you're willing to move in different directions, and that, evidence to back that up. Hey, what's an example of a time that you took on a new challenge and learned a new thing? How did you dive into that? What was your plan? Those are the kinds of things that I would look for of, hey, this person like is missing some of the technical skills I thought I would need, but I'm confident that they could pick those up in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. I see we have a comment there. That's a good question, but man, I always struggle to think of examples off the top of my head in the moment. I've been on so many projects, they all start to blend in after a while. That's a really good point. I hear that often when I'm prepping candidates for interviews. Write it down as you go, journal. I forget it too. I understand. It's very hard to resurrect those experiences when you need to. So journal them as they're happening, and you'll have them at your ready. So I hope that helps. Dave, it's been really, really cool getting to know you. We're in the season of Fort. So I just want like one final question for everyone is our process of self-review. So what do you think is going to be your main takeaway in terms of a superpower you may hear that you have, you didn't know you had, and an opportunity that you didn't know you needed?
And
we have 1 minute left. So
all right, I'll be
pressure,
quick.
Dave.
I'll say, I like asking questions. Maybe that's my legal training at showing up, but like I know it's, and I ask a lot of questions. I try to ask very probing questions, whether that's interviewing or working with folks on the team or otherwise. I think knowing when to like push things forward and when to maybe not ask the question but go drive, like that's something that there's a balancing and indexing act there that I've gotten some feedback on that in the past and still trying to figure out how to best adopt that.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And as we wrap up, just reminding everyone, if I would love to hear back from you about today's episode. So I quickly pasted a link to a very short survey. And also, if you want to reach out to us directly, here's our email address. And Isaiah, thank you again for joining. I hope you're feeling better. And thank you for the questions. Again, Dave, thank you so much. Great meeting you. And Jenna, I'll see you soon. I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Have you on soon, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bring those superpowers.